Let's talk about making things better. Let's get the big elephant in the room off the chest, okay? Driver's license. All right, the requirement for the number for the driver's license. Let me tell you why this is required. You'll see later on in my presentation, we do about 280, 290,000 refund stops each year for fraudulent type of refunds, equating to $500 million a year. Now, the way that they are filing for these refunds is they are using stolen identity and stolen information. So let's go back 3 years. They bought the Social Security number off the street. They got the name, the Social Security number, the address, the number of children. You know, there were breaches in pediatricians' offices. You got a lot of information from the pediatrician's office. You got the kid's name, date of birth, the parents, you know, a lot of information there. There were breaches in, you know, from the IRS, from the federal government, from all of the stores. So you think about how much information that this black market of the identity theft has. And one of the key things that we had to stop a lot of the refunds was we were checking the New York State withholding. So the New York State withholding, so Richard, your New York State withholding, we would check what you reported to what your employer reported. Not many people have that information, right? So, you know, 5,392, got to match it up to 5,392. Pretty good match, and we stop a lot with it, and it's a pretty quick stop. So what happened last year? There were people that called, and they would call like the accounting office of the business. There were some educational systems that had their information breached, and so they would call and they would say, "I'm calling from the president's office," or "I'm calling from the CEO office." You know, they'd say they're the admin. "Hi, I'm Mary from the CEO's office. He wants to see the payroll information. By the end of the day, he's got a board meeting tonight. Please send up all of the names, socials, all the information." They call a mid-level person in the accounting office. That mid-level person is like, "Oh my God, you know, the president or the CEO's office is calling for this information." They generate the information, and Mary told him what email to use. They sent it to Mary's email. Well, Mary's email was not in the CEO's office. There were over 300 of those companies that had that breach. So now they have all of that information right from the payroll information, including that New York State withholding. So, yes, you have a question?
Isn't there something in regards to not being allowed to send out? Is there something that you're not allowed to send out anything with a Social Security number on it without it being encrypted? Or is that just for professionals?
No, I mean, we have that, but I don't know if each of those educational, you know, but within the tax department, I can send information with Social Security numbers in it. So this is within their organization, or at least the kid in the accounting office thought it was within the organization. So they sent it. So that person's probably in trouble. They did something wrong. But the fact is that information is now available. And so what we had to do was we had to track down, you know, we had a database of all of these businesses that had been breached. And we know that a clean match there does not necessarily mean a clean match. So that requires us doing manual looks. So you could pretty much figure that anything that doesn't require your physical presence is going to be breached, and they're going to have it. Imagine that data warehouse that they have, because these are pretty smart people that are running this. So imagine what they have. Where's the only place that you have to go and physically prove that you are Richard Doman? Motor vehicle. When you got your license when you were 16, and then when you have to renew. Now you can renew every once in a while online, but after every several cycles, you have to go in and personally be there. That's the only place where you have to go and physically show who you are. So that's why the use of the driver's license is critical for us. Yes, you have a question back there? People that don't have driver's license, there is a box that you check to say you don't have a driver's license. But think about that too. So a person says they don't have a driver's license. These fraudsters are going to come up with some way of making up some numbers to try to get it through for us. Yeah.
My understanding is that you have to include the driver license information, the actual ID number, and also the document number
Yes.
in your software.
Yes.
And I would think, this is what I'm thinking, is that your department is going to be able to match that up with, let's say, my return. So if I am a person that doesn't have a driver's license or a state ID issued,
Yeah.
then you'll know, oh, this person doesn't have that type of thing. Oh, this return is probably a good return because somebody didn't fraudulently put some kind of information
That's
in there.
not our only check. We
No?
have thousands and thousands of checks that we go through to verify. Yes.
So if they don't have a driver's license,
Wait a
should we ask?
Okay.
If they don't have a driver's license, I believe you should ask for a utility bill or something. I saw that on the list.
We ask for you to verify that they really are
Right,
that
so we just
person.
want to say no, we could ask for that, another piece
yes.
of document. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Is there another type of ID besides the license itself?
Well, if you think about it, there might be something else. You know, if you work for like a high security business that requires you to go in and prove who you are, but we don't have that information to match against.
No, I'm
Yeah.
saying, but like, could you use a state ID versus a state driver's license?
It's if it comes from motor vehicle. So it's yes, and as long as it comes from motor vehicle, it has that document ID. It has those numbers. Because motor vehicle, you can get just an ID without it. Yes, yes, you can do it. It doesn't have to be driver's license. Yeah.
So that's the newer program with the state where if you didn't have a driver's license, you wanted to get an ID, you can go to their.
Correct.
You can do that?
Correct.
And
yes.
I think so a lot of the questions, Nonie, I got this morning was if you check it no, what's going to happen, particularly if the taxpayer actually has a license? Is it going to
As a preparer, what's our responsibility there?
You're responsible for ensuring that the information you put on the return is accurate. So it's another piece of information. Yeah. Yes.
And in New York, non-resident, what license number do they put on?
They would just say that they're non-resident. They don't have the New York.
They don't have it.
And by the way, just that question, because it didn't get on the mic, if it's a non-New Yorker who doesn't have a driver's license, you just check not applicable? Yeah, okay.
But if they do have a driver's license in another state, are you matching that?
Not at this point. It's not as easy for us, but that is the goal, to be able to do that validation national.
What if a client doesn't want to provide you with their driver's license? Is checking the box that they don't have a driver's license okay? Will the return be accepted by you?
At this point, we're not doing that validation before accepting the return. The return will be accepted. But I really encourage you to give us that information because we're using it to protect the client. Because that client, okay, so now we don't have that information to check. Somebody stole that client's identity. That return's coming in at the same time as the real one is coming in. If you've got the driver's license ID, we have a better idea that that's really the client.
What if the fraudulent return comes before the real return? Because we file most of our returns on extension. We file in October.
We have a lot of that. What it requires us to do when we know that they're stolen identities is we have a database of it, and we check certain data elements within there, and some of it we could do systematically. So if it's a stolen identity, you send your return in on extension. Somebody sent it in on the regular time. What we're doing is we know that your identity has been stolen. We're checking like the profile of the return coming in to the profile of prior year returns.
We have
To-
a quick question.
Yeah, there's a web question here, and it says, with the increased security, accountants, let's see, Was the increased security needed by accountants considered in doing this requirement? The cleaning crews of accounting offices will have access to all this information. Do we need increased malpractice insurance and cybersecurity policies?
I would suggest you should have done that 10 years ago when you had, when all this information is floating around and people are looking to steal it.
So, and my personal question to you is, how secure is the DMV? Because the DMV will be the next
Okay.
bullseye for fraudsters.
All right, let me tell you, with DMV, we actually have to go to their system to do this check. They don't provide that big database to, out to insurance companies, because insurance companies can look up your license to see if you have had accidents. They can't do it with both of those documents, both of those IDs. No, nobody has that. And we don't even have it. We have to send it to DMV to do the check. So
This is going to be a return by return validation?
no, it will be part of our checks. Yeah. Yeah.
Personally, yeah. Personally, I would see this to be more of putting a bullseye on New York State than DMV in regards to being able to get more information than anyone else. Which scares living daylights out of me. If they can get to the IRS, they can get into New York State.
Okay, actually, I beg to differ on that. And let me tell you why. If they could get into New York State, we had 2 of the people running for president this year, and we have all of that information. And do you know how much money was being offered for those taxes, for the information from those tax returns? We also have a state-of-the-art data center and huge security around our systems.
So my real question really comes to play is couldn't you do a taxpayer PIN like the IRS, or is that too costly in terms of doing it that way versus?
I don't think it's as secure.
IRS pins have been hacked already. So.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, just sending it to the address of record versus or forcing a person who's had an identity theft issue to file a paper return, prove they are who they are, then give them the PIN for the next year to electronically file.
The pins have been hacked. The pins have been hacked.
Happened to my client last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will the identity verification be required for extensions?
Yes. Well, you can file for your extension. Yeah.
I identify, but will the information have to be put in?
When you file for the extension, it's not required, but when you file the return, it's required.
Although I understand some systems may be requiring it
I mean,
anyway for extension.
we would take it. Yeah.
Nonie,
Mhm.
I have a,
Jeff, you offering to give your license? Is that where you got it out?
I have a 9-digit ID.
What's the
on
number,
my
Jeff?
driver's license. Are you saying there's also a document locator
Yes,
number?
there is.
Yeah.
Do
Is
you
that
have
that little number on the bottom right?
Yes.
The one you need a magnifying glass.
Okay.
Yep. And if you have a newer license, it's on the back. The best way to see it is to take a picture on your phone and then go like this to make it bigger.
All right, so why don't we move on to
Yes.
the more exciting parts of the presentation? If we have more driver's license questions that are fascinating, we can deal with them afterwards.
We got one more question from our web participants. Driver's licenses are easily stolen, and fraudulent returns I have encountered involve the use of different addresses. So why doesn't the state just cross-reference the return address and other information with the DMV instead of adding all this administrative nightmare on us?
We already have checks with the addresses.
Then why do you need that?
And addresses are hacked too. Yeah. Okay, let's move forward.